Sorry, I just had a little bit of a Jerry West rant to myself because I realized I was recording this video without one of my speakers to catch this beautiful stuff coming out of my mouth. But apparently when I've recorded without this microphone, for some reason there's like a clicking or some type of extra sound that happens. I don't know why it's happening through my phone, but whenever I've used this microphone, it's worked. So I'm going to be doing that now. And if you've seen the Showtime HBO show about the LA Lakers, you'd understand the Jerry West rants that end up happening. And obviously I just had a little bit of one of those and all that stuff. But even if you watch the Bears, sometimes it could be that show on FX. It could be sometimes hectic around this place as well. But let me get to why y'all came here for with some more updated news. So yeah, apparently Disney and Spectrum or Charter TV, whatever they're called nowadays, they've apparently reached an agreement earlier this day. So they struck a deal at some point earlier in the morning, which is kind of not surprising because it's the first Monday Night Football game. So of course they wanted more people to watch and all this stuff. I didn't know it was a specific amount of people that weren't able to watch it. It was like 13 million people, and I was one of those people that haven't been able to watch ESPN's channels for like the past 2 weeks almost. But yeah, overall, I guess it's a good thing. I wasn't planning on watching the game tonight, but now I will. I'm already pretty much beating my fantasy football opponent, which you will get an update like you did last season on Tuesday. So look out for that video mañana. But yeah, overall, I guess this is a good thing. We'll be able to see. It hasn't really affected my USC games because they played on the Pac-12 network first 2 weeks, and then this last Saturday they played on Fox, so it did not affect it. And this week they have a bye week, so it's not really affecting. And I think even the week after when they come back at ASU, it's on Fox as well. So either way, as long as they got the deal done and I don't have to worry about canceling my subscription or whatever, payment, whatever it's called. But yeah, either way, excited about the game tonight. And speaking of those USC Trojans, yes, they were able to get the victory against the lowly Stanford team, 56-10. I think at some point right before halftime, it was either like 42-3 or 49-3, something like that. And that's why pretty much Caleb Williams and a lot of the other starters did not start the second half. And I think Stanford got a late touchdown, which made it 10 points for them. So USC kind of had to answer a bit of their own with a rushing touchdown by their quarterback, Miller Moss. And it made it like 56-10 officially. So they could have ran up the score if they wanted to, but they didn't. And I guess that kind of had to do with the inconsistency with a lot of the offensive line play as well from the backup. So Riley is looking at that to coach them up this week. And obviously the defense did step up because, yeah, they did give up a lot of big running plays, but there are a couple times too that Stanford was in the red zone and they could have easily gotten field goals, but decided to go for the points and the touchdowns because they were inside the 5, and USC's defense did stand up, and they had a couple of takeaways as well, a lot of sacks. So either way, it's looking good, especially against a better opponent than the first two teams that you played. Maybe not. Maybe San Jose State was the better team because they have scored the most points against them so far earlier this year, but they will get... it's hard to say because I think ASU is a little bit of the same because they have a brand new coach and new quarterback, freshman, a lot of transfers that went out of the program and into it as well, and they haven't looked all that consistent the first couple weeks. So next week, even though it's on the road at ASU, it should be a bit easier, but I don't know, as long as Caleb Williams still ends up playing like how he has. I mean, even in that first half, he had over 300 plus throwing yards, a big couple of rushes, and even a rushing touchdown. So I think he had 4 or 5 touchdowns before he went out of the game officially. And he's putting up these numbers in the first half and the first 3 quarters, not playing the full games like a lot of these other players, like the quarterback at Colorado or any of these other guys like Bo Nix up there in, I want to say Auburn, which is his old school, but Oregon. And they're throwing up crazy numbers, but he's still throwing pretty close numbers, and he's not playing a full game like they have been. Yeah, he's playing lesser competition, but he is still putting up the numbers. So either way, excuse me, he should still be leading the Heisman race because he was ex-champion or ex-winner last offseason. So either way, looking forward to seeing what could end up happening with him. Because even like Zachariah Brandt's a freshman, he once again had a return. This time it was a punt return. So wonder what type of record it is for a freshman to have a kick return, punt return and a receiving touchdown. He just needs like a rushing touchdown, and if they want to play him on defense, I mean, they might. His brother Zion is pretty good on defense as well. He's getting some more playing time, but yeah, it'd be crazy if he were to play defense. But either way, overall, definitely very happy about the way they came out and played. And yeah, just looking forward to them getting a little bit of a rest, because for some reason they're missing a couple of their guys. Like Mason Cobb missed his second straight game, their leading linebacker. So we'll see what ends up happening with some of the guys that missed and are either dealing with injuries or not. We'll find out. But yeah, definitely looking forward to that ASU game. And because of that victory, they were number 5 in the AP poll, so they moved up one spot. I'm assuming it was because of Alabama losing to Texas, but Texas was behind USC, if I'm not mistaken, so they jumped up before, so they must have moved up but from some other team. I don't know if it was Ohio State, Florida State, or Penn State around there. I didn't really look at that top 4, top 5 overall, but either way, still up one spot, still 3-0, and like I said, definitely looking forward to the next couple of matchups coming up in their pretty tough later schedule in the season. And then right before this game, so his numbers probably went up, but Bear Alexander, the transfer from Georgia, had 8 quarterback pressures, which was leading all of Power 5 defensive tackles at his position in all of the country. So I saw him getting through and having a couple more good plays, so he probably added to that list and is leading it still. But yeah, he's definitely one of the better transfers that USC was able to get this last offseason. And speaking about players in the NFL, yeah, a lot of guys did step up in the NFL, especially in that first game. I'm pretty sure you saw the short I put up, but I don't think I talked about it in that Friday video, because I think that was just a fantasy football. I forget what that video was that I put up a couple days ago. But yes, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the ex-USC wide receiver for the Detroit Lions, scored the first touchdown of the NFL season on that Thursday night, so that was pretty cool. And I think throughout the game, with his 6 receptions, he ended up surpassing, or at least getting to 200 career receptions, which I think is like the 4th quickest player in their history to do that. That's pretty cool stat for him. He's definitely one of the better 4th round picks in memory. Like I said, if you go back to my old Chargers scouting of mock drafts, I wanted him in the 2nd round to them, but nobody listens to me. It's all good. But yeah, he's proven I'm wrong, and I'm definitely very excited about his career trajectory. And then Drake Jackson, yes, ex-USC defensive end and Corona Centennial player who got drafted by the 49ers last year in the 2nd round. He pretty much had only 3.5 sacks total last year. And just this game yesterday against Pittsburgh, he had 3 total sacks. So he's obviously already moving up the charts and going to be one of their top 2nd-year players in their program. So yeah, definitely looking forward to see what else he can do. But yeah, they definitely got a very nice player out of close to home out here in SoCal. And then Jordan Addison, the 1st-round wide receiver selected out of USC to the Minnesota Vikings, did get his first career touchdown. I think he had 4 or 5 receptions as well, something like that, over 60-something yards. So that's pretty cool for him. I wanted him in fantasy, but I think my brother just stole him a round right before me. But either way, it's obvious that he's a really talented dude. And I think out of the receivers, I don't know about other receivers. I know Jefferson, their top receiver and probably top player on the offensive side in the NFL, he had a crazy certain number of catches and yards, over 150 or something like that, but he still had no touchdown, which was surprising. But yeah, he beasted out too. So either way, it's a nice job for the ex-USC guy, Addison, in his start to his NFL career. House of Victory also, did have a couple signings late last week. They signed a track and field player in Jasmine Jones and Parker Fry, who is on the women's tennis team. So congrats to those 2 athletes, and yeah, a little bit more mixing of not just football, but other athletes around, especially when those sports are starting to ramp back up as well. So that's pretty cool for the program overall. And then yes, Duke football did play this last weekend. I don't even remember the name of the team that they played, but they did beat them 42-7, which was nice, and they are still number 21 in the AP poll, or at least number 21. So they might have moved up one spot, because I think I was looking at the USA Today 1, which they did move up 1, so I'm not sure, but they're still in that same area, 20 and 21. So still, it's an overall good thing. They took care of business against a low team that, like I said, I can't even remember who the heck they were. But either way, it was a good victory for them, and some good positive news for their basketball program. Cooper Flagg, the number 1 player who is reclassifying to 2025, I believe it was, or was it 2024? I forget. But whichever one he's reclassifying to, he is going to be having an official visit when a lot of those other players, at least 2 other top players, are coming to the countdown of craziness when Duke plays against each other in that exhibition game. So yeah, that's another big thing for them to be able to get guys on campus around that time, and obviously to get a guy like Cooper Flagg on at that time, it's going to be very important for them. So this is very big, I think, going into his future commitment to the Blue Devils, in my opinion. An ex-Duke player, Harry Giles III, recently signed a deal with the Nets. I don't know if it was like an Exhibit 10 or something like that just to get him in camp, but either way, he has a chance to make that team, so congrats to him. Obviously an ex-Duke player. He was definitely one of the more tragic high school stories because he was the number 1 player for a certain number of years, and then just consecutive years tearing his ACL and having those surgeries and setbacks, and yet still was able to be a a late first-round pick by the Kings, I believe. But yeah, overall, he's definitely been pushing to still try to get a NBA roster spot, which he does have that opportunity, so definitely very excited for him. And then a 4-star power forward, Sebastian Rancic, yeah. He has cut his list down to 3 schools, and USC did make the 3. I believe it was like Oklahoma and Colorado as well. So, yeah, of those other 2, I would probably be more worried about Colorado than Oklahoma as far as schools. But if he wants more playing time, it'd probably be Oklahoma. But if he wants to come to a nice up-and-coming winning program, I think it would be a nice place for him to come to USC. So we'll see what Sebastian ends up doing. And LeBron recently said, just because I didn't get the screenshots or whatever, but yes, the USA did. Who did they lose recently to? Yeah, it was Canada they recently lost to. That was... No. Getting too ahead of myself. They lost to Germany prior to losing to Canada. So they did not make it to the finals of that FIBA tournament. And then when they played Canada, they lost that game as well in overtime. So they didn't even medal. I think they were like 4th place overall in this tournament. So, and like I said, either way, they still are going to be able to play in the Olympics in 2024 in Paris. But yeah, it's not a good overall look to lose and not even medal. At least you got to do that. But it kind of prompted LeBron to kind of step up and say that he is willing to play in the 2024 Paris Olympics for Team USA if other guys are going to be willing to join him as long as they're healthy. Guys like Stephen Curry, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, players like that. And it's obvious that if even 1 or 2 of those guys are on this team with Team USA, they would be multiple times better than what they are and have a better showing and probably get to that final game. But either way, as long as you get like a handful or more of other better NBA veteran players, I think Team USA has no problem winning in that Paris Olympics. So we'll just end up seeing what ends up happening in the near future. And the Lakers signed 4 players to Exhibit 10 contracts. So I'm assuming these are just like camp bodies and see who ends up doing good. So maybe they end up getting like one of those 2-way contracts or end up getting signed. You never know. Or just sent to the G League team. But a couple of those guys that were added, Scottie Pippen Jr., we obviously know him. Damian Ball was that undrafted TCU guy that played for them in Summer League who was all right. Vincent Valerio Bowden, and Bryce Hamilton, which I think I remember that name during their Summer League or G League, whatever it is, team. So, yeah, I don't know if these guys are going to be able to make the real roster, but at least, you know, bodies for the G League team. I think that's what it's most likely looking at right as of now. And then, yes, getting to the big news. Obviously, I'm pretty sure most people are here to see me rant about the Chargers, but it's just I mean, I was kind of busy in the start of the fourth quarter, ended up leaving anyways, and I thought it was still kind of safe just because they were still up by 4 and driving the Chargers. That's who they were. And so I was like, okay, they're probably still going to score because this game seemed like a flip-flop. Whoever had the ball late was going to ended up winning the game, which kind of is what it ended up being because I think Miami scored like a minute left, and then the Chargers just weren't able to do anything. All of a sudden, they gave up sacks for Herbert, and then there's like penalties as well that put them back on a very far fourth down, and they weren't able to convert. But I think the biggest play obviously had to come from the defense, which was going in. I remember seeing this at least live when it was right before halftime. It was like pretty much a Hail Mary play for Miami, and they threw it down the field, and the Chargers batted it down. But right before that, J.C. Jackson literally pushes the receiver and then goes up to hit the ball. And it's like, even if you don't hit the ball, just still tackle him. The time was already ran out, and they weren't going to get another playoff anyways. And what ended up being the difference of this final score? It was 36-34. So if you don't give up those 3 points, which is what the Miami Dolphins ended up getting, was kicking that late field goal right before halftime, even though the Chargers were still winning at the time, it just felt like you always look at mistakes in a game, and even when it's like a basketball game, if there's like a random call and it's like 2 fouls, and so you get like those 2 points in your head. So if like your team wins only by a certain amount of points, or I'm sorry, if your team only loses by like 1 or 2 points, then you kind of put that into perspective. You could have either went to overtime or won the game if you didn't give up those 2. And obviously, they gave up those 3, and they end up losing by 2. So it's a either way in between swing of 1 to 3 points. So yeah, the Chargers is just kind of lackluster because, I mean, the offense looked great. They were running fast and doing some stuff to get the defense off guard, which is probably why they scored a lot. But to be honest, especially if you're still doing that late in the game, it was kind of dumb, which is what a lot of teams in college run into, is where you're constantly going and throwing the ball so the clock stops and you're not really letting the clock roll down as you're driving down and looking to have the last score of the game. And there were probably late in that game I didn't really see towards the end, but there's probably like new stuff that they could have ended up doing to where they gave the Dolphins less time. But either way, it's still a bad overall showing in my opinion. So yeah, definitely very lackluster performance by that defense, and Brandon Staley was getting a lot of tough questions like he should have at the end of the game because he is the head coach on the defensive side, and they didn't show up. And especially when you're paying a guy like J.C. Jackson $80 million over 4 years, and you know he makes a big mistake to pretty much end up costing you the game eventually, that's tough. So it wasn't just his fault, but it was a pretty big part in the faults. If that didn't happen, then you know, the Chargers probably end up winning that game by 1 point. But either way, thanks for watching, people. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.